Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Menachem Creditor. It's my honor to serve as scholar in residence and rabbi for UJA Federation of New York. We bring you Torah and music, blessing, and community every weekday. We've been doing so since March 18th, 2020. Today it is Wednesday, March 11th, 2026. Almost 6 straight years of Torah every single day with friends just gathering to learn and say good morning. Lydia and Jonathan, Penny and Tara, Safta Stieber, so good to see you. Hi, Susie. Hi, John. Welcome. Hi, Ashley. Boker Tov to you. Bensi, nice to see you too. Hope everyone is safe and well. Let's see who else is here. We'll say good morning to a few more people, and then we'll begin with a bracha and some learning. Linda and Jack, good to see you too. Okay. Let's take a breath. In a second, we'll sing a bracha. Hi, Jack. Hi, Linda. Hi, Rosa. Good to see you too. Hi, Michelle. Boker Tov, everybody. Hi, Barbara. And Barbara. It's good to see you. Hi, everybody. Everybody, it's good to see you. Special shout out to my Ariel. Hello, love. This is one of my favorite themes to talk about, even though it isn't a simple one. Whenever we come to Parshat Vayakhel Pekudei, the double Torah portion that we read this week, which we actually began with 6 years ago, you see the culmination of the building project that has occupied so much of our attention in the text and the attention of our ancestors. While in the desert, it was our mandate not just to receive Torah at Sinai, but to carry it with us as we construct a community. And at the center of that community was the Mishkan, also understood sometimes in the text as the Ohel Moed, a tent of meeting God. It would serve as the model for eventually building the temples in Jerusalem. But in this text and in this parsha, the construction project is completed. If you've ever seen a project to completion, you understand how much investment it takes on a deep personal level, including all the stakeholders. This is language that we use in committees and organizations, and even in building a new home with a partner or with a family, or even alone. There is something incredibly complicated about seeing a big project to completion. And one of the most satisfying things you can do is to step into that project and feel its reality. Some of us have been instrumental in the creation of sacred space, of healing space. We as UJA have done tremendous work in the world, not only in the last 2.5 years, but especially in the last 2.5 years, including projects that don't get as much attention because they don't feel like the geopolitical emergencies that we also tend to. But for instance, the Brooklyn Hub, which is a one-stop shop for so many social services, including dignified food pantry through digital empowerment for those facing food insecurity. There's a very special space called Makom Shalom for survivors of domestic abuse to be able to share their stories and receive the support they need. There's vocational training. Imagine being involved in this kind of construction, a project that matters to the world, that you feel committed to, that you believe in. Seeing it come to completion and not being able to step inside to experience it. Just hold on to that. Because in this week's Parsha, something like that, not the same, but like that, happens. What happens? As the Mishkan is finished, the very last step, and if you'd like to look this up, it's chapter 40, verse 33, the very end of the book of Exodus. We'll come back to this theme tomorrow, but in a different way. I'll read you the Hebrew of these three verses 33 to 35, and then I'll translate them. And I ask you to open your heart in the most relational way you can to Moshe Rabbeinu, to Moses. Because as I've described seeing a project to completion, something you believe in, that feels very this-worldly, something you and I can relate to. We probably, if we began the conversation differently, would say, oh, I can't imagine what it is to be Moshe. And of course we can't. But he's also a person who's dedicated his life to leading a very difficult people and listening to a very demanding God and navigating a wilderness. He's just a person. So listen to this language. Vayakhel et hechatzer saviv lamishkan v'lamizbeach. And he set up the enclosure around the tabernacle, the Mishkan, and the altar. Vayiten et hamasach shar hechatzer. And he put up the screen for the gate of the enclosure, literally, the final touches of the physical construction. Vayakhel Moshe et hamalacha. And Moshe finished the project, the work. Vayechas ha'anan et ohel moed, and the cloud covered the tent of meeting. That's a signal that God's presence was there. Uchvod Adonai maleh et hamishkan, and the presence of God filled the tabernacle. It worked. All of the details were done with precision, with artistic sensibility, and it worked. It became a space pervaded by God. Velo yachol Moshe lavo el ohel moed, and Moses could not enter the tent of meeting. Ki shachan alav ha'anan, because the cloud had settled upon it. Uchvod Adonai maleh et hamishkan, and the presence of God filled the tabernacle. Now this is complicated because, after all, we don't think about God as occupying physical space. That's not the way we typically describe God, but the Torah does. It's a different conversation why we have different notions of God than the Torah does. It's a great conversation. But just for now, let's leave that aside and talk about Moshe. Moshe has seen the project through to completion. It works. It works. You can only imagine how overwhelming this must feel for everyone, including Moshe, especially Moshe. Listen to these two examples that Linda and Minna have shared. Linda said, building our Hadassah hospitals. Over 50-year membership, our chapter purchased equipment, helped construct operating rooms, pediatric therapy suites, and just imagine being involved in the way, Linda, that you're describing, going to the door of the hospital and not being able to enter, to see what you have been part of, how much help you have brought. Minna writes, I had the privilege of being on the building committee when my shul was built. It was a 2-year commitment of love. The completion was moving. The Torah's through the streets. A precious moment. So glad you were able to experience it in the way that you did. So grateful for the work that both of you were describing having done. And God forbid, imagine not being able to step into the space and to see the holy project working. That's what Moshe's experience somehow is. He can't get into the Mishkan as it's completed. We will deal with the God part of that after. Let's deal with the human part. Because what we must make sure that we do when we continue our work building sacred things in the world is that we do not see them as some objectified object. The goal of a real sacred project is not to construct it without making sure the doors stay open to everyone who might need, including those who have spent so much blood, sweat, tears, and means to build it. We must make sure, as one of my teachers, Jeff Schoenfeld at UJA, has phrased it, that we can touch the work. How else can we know that Chvod Ha'anan, that God's glory is there? We don't know if we don't see it. And so let's first of all open our hearts with some compassion to Moshe, who wasn't able to enter the holy space. And yes, Rosa, it might be, as you just wrote, that maybe God showed Moses a tough kindness, because at home the Israelites needed a different sort of leader. I understand. I understand the suggestion. It's very interesting. But for now, I'll just use the way that I was approaching it, knowing that it's not the only way. There's something essential about Moshe, because he's so human, isn't he? He's worked so hard, and now he's left out. We have to make sure that when we build our holy spaces, we do so in a way that does not leave anybody out. The Brooklyn Hub and the Queens Hub and other social services that we labor intensely to create and to maintain and to expand, because the vulnerable sectors of society seem to be only growing. That work is meant to welcome people in. And one of the big gifts, friends, of being the builders of such beautiful things is making sure that the doors stay open for ourselves too. Because it is really often just a matter of circumstance. I'm the one providing the help today. Who's to say I won't be the one needing the help tomorrow? The doors must be open. The Mishkan, this holy gathering space, it is a tender space. And just for right now, let's send our hearts through time, space, and the levels of text to our ancestor, our teacher Moshe. Let's let him in. I can only imagine how it must have felt to be locked out of this space in the most intense moment. We spend 5 Torah portions describing every detail of the construction. Moshe works with an unruly community, is overshadowed by the artist Bezalel, won't enter into the Holy of Holies to serve the way his brother does. Let's let Moshe in. Let's let him in here too. Because there are people who are often excluded from holy space. That's on us. We can't fill the space so much that there doesn't remain room for others. They could be builders too. And if we truly see ourselves as constructing something holy, we have to make sure that there is lots of space in it for those who seek its refuge. Let's send our hearts to the east, friends. Let's sing. Kol od balevav pnima nefesh Yehudi homia ulefatei mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia od lo avda tikvateinu התקווה בת שנות 2000 להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון וירושלים להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון Virushalayim. Am Yisrael Chai. See you tomorrow, my friends.